Sorry, just had a hiccup. I'll get started in 1 second. Okay, welcome to Massively TV episode. I'm your host Jeremy, and today we're taking a look at EVE Online. So this, like I said, this is Massively TV on massively.com or massively.joystick.com, and I'm a little bit of a noobling with EVE Online. Although I like it a lot and I've been playing for a little while, I haven't really explored a ton of the options that this gigantic game has, which you'll see which hopefully I'll show you as we get through the live stream. But for those in the chat room right now, I'm going to post a link to Massively's EVE Online articles and news. And that's where you can also read Brendan Drain's article, EVE Evolved, and he's not only Massively's resident EVE expert. I think he's pretty much an all-around EVE expert in the entire universe of EVE. Heck, I think he's practically a celebrity in the EVE universe. If anyone knows anything about EVE, Brendan knows it. So let's just get started here. I've been having trouble with my computer. Unfortunately, I don't know why. That's partly why I had the last minute hiccup. And I'm hoping that the game runs fairly smooth. I tried doing the obvious stuff, lower. It's still saying that I'm running hot, so I have no idea why. But we're just gonna forge our way forward and deal with it. Okay, so this is EVE Online, and I'm just gonna start sort of a newbie experience. And not a game that you can call a WoW clone, is it? As you can see. As a matter of fact, people, whether negatively or in a friendly manner or not, some people call it, they kind of refer to it as playing a spreadsheet, because as you can see, everything's pretty much, you interact with everything pretty much through Windows. So you're gonna be, that's primarily how you're gonna do everything, even moving around. But something else I want to get into later is that it's kind of deceiving, because there is a lot of skill involved, I think. Look, I'm still getting tutorial pop-ups. That hasn't happened in a long time. So where to start? The differences from other MMOs, it's sort of like a spreadsheet. It's heavy on management. This game is heavy on management. And it's definitely a sandbox game. It's not a theme park like World of Warcraft or Runes of Magic or anything else. The other interesting thing is it's all on one shard, or one realm, one world, one server, what have you. So everybody's playing together. Anybody who happens to be logged in at the time, there's no one's segregated by different realms. And so you pretty much jump in and you get your ships, you PvP, you mine and grow your wealth and play the market, and there's a ton of stuff to do. I'm gonna leave and go out into space here real quick, undock. I'm in a space station right now, which is something that EVE Online didn't always have. They added sort of that. They added added the space station kind of thing more recently, so you could actually kind of have your pilot walking around and see him. But here we are, jumping out into outer space. Let me minimize it. Well, we don't really need the chat up right now. I'll just minimize it. Graphically, this game is really awesome. Really. You're not going to be like going forward, back, up, and down. As you can see, I'm using the left mouse key to look all around my ship, and the right mouse key sort of unlocks from my ship and lets me look around it freely. And then I can zoom out. I can zoom way out. Out until, look at that giant space station, this itty bitty bitty. A specific like quadrant or section that you're in. And to move around, you're going to have to fix yourself on different celestial bodies, or pick from a menu and select pilot or autopilot, and then to move there. That's primarily well, that's the gist of it. But there's a lot of other things that get come into play with that. That really adds a lot of skill to this. Orbit within 1,000 meters. And I can go head towards this. He's a Concord police commander. And so my ship automatically adjusts its trajectory. Down here in the middle of my screen, I have my my immediate like ship commands. These are fittings, which I'll get into when I get back into the space station. But this is sort of like a quick heads-up display for my ship. I can see my armor status, my heat status. I can see my capacitor status. You have only so much energy, depending on how many skills you have and what kind of fittings you have on your ship. And here's my speed. I can do autopilot, and these are the fittings I currently have on, which if anybody wanted to, they could probably spit on me and I'd blow up. But on right now. But back in this station, I have some other like really lightweight machine guns and lasers. There's some other tools. What do I see? I have two expanded cargoes on, and I have a small armor repair, so I can, if I do get damaged a little bit from NPCs, which there are. Capacitor too. So let's jump back into the station. There's so much to this game that I actually had to write stuff down that I wanted. In the chat is letting me know that the Chinese do have their own server. There's a China server. So I wonder how many. I don't think I've ever. I mean, I didn't even know there was a separate shard for them. Yeah, Fastcart's also asking about lag. I'm having trouble for some reason with my computer. It hadn't been doing this before, I really don't know what the problem is. I'm going to try to troubleshoot over the next few days and weeks, if however long it takes, and try to figure out why my computer is running so hot. I don't know why. I went in and set and lowered down all the graphics and on my card and in the game and everything I could think of. I closed every other possible program that could have been running. I double checked my processors, and my physical memory still runs hot at like it's peaking out at 90+%, and I have no idea why. If you just bear with me, we should be able to get through this and have some fun. So I wanted to talk about a little bit more about the user, and I wanted to get into skills, because skills is one of the unique things about WoW, or about WoW. One of the unique things that are different than games like WoW. This is time-based skills for anyone who's totally new to this game. So what you do is you get a hold of little books, because the lore in the game is that you're basically a clone. You're basically immortal because you just keep cloning your body over and over, and you can inject skills into your head, sort of like the Matrix, I guess. You just plug in and inject them. So you either buy them from other players or from key NPCs, and learn them. And there are prerequisites, and there are just a vast number of skills. Here's my skill queue. And I still have 1 day, 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 37, 36, 35 seconds counting to learn this. You can only have a window of 24 hours, so whatever can start within that window, you can learn. It took me a few minutes to figure out, but for instance, a level 5 skill takes like 5 or 6 days, so you're going to be only able to put one of those skills into your skill queue and learn it. You won't be able to queue up any more skills because it eats up all the 24-hour window. But if you started out with smaller skills, say a bunch of level 1 skills, like mass production I have takes 1 hour 17 minutes, I can fit it up here because it starts within the 24-hour window. So there, that fits, because if you count the first two I put in, you basically add 14 hours and 1 hour together. That's 15 hours in the 24-hour window. So that leaves, like, what is that, 9 hours left? So if anything else will fit within that remaining 9 hours, you can keep piling them on. I have Fastcar's asking me if I can manually increase the speed of my video card fan. I don't know, but I'm going to write that down for later. I just don't understand the problem, because I've been live streaming for weeks and weeks now, and this is a recent problem. This isn't like a problem that's always been happening. I think it actually started in the last Procaster update. So maybe it's something just simply, maybe I'm reaching the limitations of my PC, I don't know. Anyways, back to EVE Online. So that's level 1, it's 38 minutes. I can fit that in. So here's Pyroxeries, I can put that in. These are some I just bought recently because I'm trying to get my mining up. I love mining and crafting and stuff, so I bought all these ore skills. And then there's Veldspar, processing. And I still have like 6 hours to deal with. So if I had even more skills, I could keep cramming these in here. And Spaceship Commander, even though it takes a whole day and an hour left, because it fits, because the start of it will fit, it's going, it will let me queue it. So then I hit apply and it recalculates all this, and it starts with the new skill I put on top. And then, I'll learn that. And then I can close it out, and even when I'm offline, I'll learn those. So I have 5 skills in my queue, and it's like with a total of like a few days to get through all of them. But anytime you want, you can mix and match, and even if you replace one with another one, or like supersede one, that it doesn't reset the time it takes to. You have this nice little certificate area. I found this really helpful. Might be helpful for new capsuleers just starting the game. You can open up a certificate planner, and this basically it just gives you kind of a helping hand, maybe a little bit of direction, because it can be hard to figure out what to do and when you're playing EVE Online, when you're starting for the first time. There's things like business, industry, core, defense, drones. There's even where did it go? Core. Let's go to core, basic, core capacitor. So this is stuff like for your ship, and these are like your core components that will be helpful to start out with. And I still don't even have most. The starter professions are way down at the bottom. This is really helpful. They're divided up in the basic, standard, improved, elite. So here's, for instance, here's under starter professions basic. There's a whole bunch of like ships and ship skills. Like this is Amar business. This certificate's available to all graduates of Hideon University who specialized as entrepreneurs. I specialized as like in crafting when I started the game. When you start the game, you're gonna choose like some specialties, but that shouldn't stop you from doing whatever you want in the game. Like Gallant Industry, this is where I started out. Basically, I started with the Gallant stuff, the ships and that, and I've got almost everything. I need a Gallant Industries certificate to complete this. But that should give any new players a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of a helping hand. So now let's get into, let's see, I have this all written down. Let's jump out into space again real quick. Well, you can easily dock and undock in its different stations. Oh, one thing about stations is you have sort of a station bank, and basically the storage is unlimited. You're going to find limitations when you're playing the game because the universe is so huge, and if you start going to different areas, you cannot access the same bank from any location. If you want, like, if I leave to another station, all my stuff stays in the bank in this particular station. It won't come with me. So if I ever want to get it back, I have to come and get it. So let's I'm gonna warp here to a nice handy window where you can kind of bookmark locations. So when you go to a particular location, you can kind of save that in your database, in your people and places section. That way you can look it back up. I have stuff for mining where I found like certain kinds of ore. Let's find one that's not too far away. Here we go. So I can set destination, close this, and then if I wanted to, I can autopilot. Let me see, autopilot engaged. And it takes kind of a second to kick in. And that's dangerous, because if you're in danger of getting PvP'd, getting your butt kicked, you might not want to use autopilot, because there's hesitation in turning and escaping. Move the camera like this, and especially if you're warping somewhere and you get a little camera shake, it reminds me of how they filmed that new Battlestar Galactica TV show, doesn't it? It's like, and then they zoom in and out, and the camera kind of bobbles around. Game that allow people to film from all kinds of different angles and use all kinds of different tools to really make some awesome looking videos. See, this is another thing too. If you're using autopilot and you're going to a jump point, you don't get to, they don't warp you in very close to the jump point. They warp you away, so then you have to kick in your smaller thrusters, and it takes a minute to get there before you actually warp. So if you do it manually, you'll warp right to the station, and then you can immediately jump to another system. But Fastcard saying, Fastcard said he's training mineral skills. I don't think he plans to get killed. Now, Frozen Corpse, may God have mercy on my soul. Uh-oh. Hopefully. We'll see. Anyways, some people, especially people want to badmouth the game a little bit. They say, "Oh, Eve is so boring. It's like playing a spreadsheet, yada yada yada." You know what I found? I found that to be totally not true, and I'm not trying to badmouth the badmouthers, but I'm just saying that's just do you think seeing a guy whip around his nunchucks a million miles per hour and blood splatter everything, if that's action for you, that's cool. But there's a lot always going on, especially when you get into PvP battles in EVE. You're going to be managing a ton of stuff. It kind of reminds me of the old BattleTech role-playing game, if anyone's ever played that. BattleTech used to be a pen and paper strategic RPG way before those MechWarrior games came out and stuff. I know because I used to play BattleTech and Aerotech and Battle Force and all that other stuff. But the way they have battles and movement is everything's set up in phases. Let's go to an asteroid belt while I'm talking. So BattleTech was always set up in phases, right? You'd have a movement phase, then you'd have like an attack phase, and then I forget now, you had something like a cooldown phase or something. But within those phases, you had certain smaller phases that broke up what made that phase. And so, for instance, your movement phase, you'll move. You know, every turn a person got to do a movement phase and attack phase. Cool down your heat sinks or whatever, what have you, and then you can go into your attack phase, and you have, like I said, a few different things you can do. You can fire, choose what to fire, based on more limited rules, and that's what Eve feels like to me, only in real time. This is an asteroid belt I warped to, and I'm gonna head over and try to mine a little bit. You might only click on a menu to move around and to like fly from star to star or whatever. But really what's going on is there's a lot of smaller little moves going on, like the trajectory of your ship, its speed, its heading and facing, and then when you're in battle, you have to worry about, like, things matter, like the heading and facing of your ship in relation to the heading and speed and facing of the other ship, things like that. I mean, just as a small example, to help you escape faster, people will warp into an area, like, say for instance where this is. Say this was a very high sec area, which I'll get into high security and low security in a moment. But they would warp in, start mining, and then, but what they would do is they would look for a local celestial body, and they, before they started doing anything, they'd head over to near the know that would be the same direction as the warp exit, where they would normally leave to anyways. What this does is it cuts down on time. So when you're being attacked, you already have your facing, and so you can instantly hit. And especially if you have your thrusters on, you can instantly hit the warp and just boom, you're out of there, instead of having to go through those small little phases. And that saves people precious time. I mean, if a person shot in with a super pot, you know, and you knew they were a lot tougher than you, and they were gunning for you, you want to be able to get out there, get out quick. And then imagine, like, you know, 3, 4, 10, 20 people in a space battle. You're gonna be taking into consideration all kinds of these little variables, like the ship's facing, the enemy's ship facing, and then you're gonna have to start thinking about what, you know, analyzing their ship so you can figure out what fittings they have. And it's really to me, it's a lot more than just a game of take turns fighting. To me, it's a lot of skill involved. I think I was totally blown away. I was really impressed by it. Here's my mining thing that I'm kind of slow going with. But I mean, that's not to say that the people who feel it's boring just made that up. They didn't. I mean, it is going to be kind of a relaxed. There's lots of times where it's more management. You're buying your ship parts, you're playing the market, you're auto jumping between solar systems, and if you think about action in relation to a theme park game like World of Warcraft, then yes, there's going to be less action, I guess, overall. The action will come in spurts. Like, I guess you could think of it like, to me, it's like a racetrack, watching a race, you know. Sometimes some people don't get into racing, but, you know, and they might not understand. They just see a bunch of cars monotonously going around and around and around. More to it than that. So what I'm doing here is I'm mining a little bit. I can open up my ship cargo and see how much I can hold. I did Online. EVE Online, I think, has a foothold because they've been around a lot longer. They've grown to be a lot bigger because of that. They just have so much going on for them. One of the other things about these games, like Perpetuum and EVE even more, is these games are like, they produce real news. I've mentioned this before, and even Sarah, back when she wrote for Massively, mentioned this before. These games produce, unlike World of Warcraft or Runes of Magic or others, which those, I mean, you'll have patch updates, and then you'll have some news, like, you know, like so and so is the top guild. They overtook another guild for beating the raid encounter the fastest, or this and that. But with EVE Online and Perpetuum, you're going to have like real news that was generated by people. I'll repost that link for anybody new coming into the chat room that has our EVE Online news that Brendan Drain writes about, and other people that write up any kind of news announcements. We've had news announcements of players scamming other players for millions or billions of ISK, which is the money. Actually, if somebody in the chat room could tell me, do you say ISK or ISK? Like, I've always said ISK, actually, to talking about EVE's money. So if you could let me know, that'd be awesome. But we've had players run websites outside of the game where they've used like a Ponzi scheme or something similar, where they just scammed millions from other players. We've had people in-game, because everything's pretty much run by the players and created by the players. Then you can have like people that spent a long time building up their wealth and building up and taking control of a certain area of space, and one person could come along and a little battle could happen and it could all come tumbling down. So it's real changing stuff that's always fluctuating. Yeah, they're Frozen Corpse and Fast Card are telling me it's pronounced ISK as in the word. Well, that's good. That's what I was doing. So I guess I'm smart, or just lucky. Alright, so I'm gonna stop mining. So this stuff here, yeah, people are gonna be like, oh, all you're doing is clicking on that and then clicking on this and I'm like, yeah, you know, that's sort of, but you're managing a lot of stuff. You're constantly keeping track of everything going on, your ship and all your fittings and your, you know, what's around you and who's in the same solar system. Because when somebody comes in, unless they're like hidden with certain fittings or something like that, you can see other players and they'll have different tag designations. Like this guy over here, I don't know if you can see him way off in the distance. He's mining on Mark III. I'm going to grab my people and places, and I have my little home folder so I can see where a couple stations I designated as my home are at. And I'll just set destination again, and I'll just warp there because I'm in a high security area, and that's something else I wanted to talk about. If you can see up in the top left of my screen, it tells me the name of this current system I'm in, the nearest celestial bodies. The sovereignty, this is the Gallant Federation, or Gallant Federation. Constellation is Obrey, the region is Verge Vendor, security level is 0.9. And then it tells me like what my next destination is and how long it'll take to get there. But boy, I'm losing my train of thought. You know, my destination. I want to take a quick look at the map here. It'll take a moment to load up. Okay. Let's zoom out here. Okay. Whoops, let's zoom in here a little bit. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this because it's a lot of little dots and little colored lines. And I forgot I had star labels on this thing. I need to turn it off. Where was I at? Services. Yeah. I forgot I had it on cloning. I need to take that off. No. How do I remove that?
Autopilot jumping.
Let me turn it to... Let me just change it to something else here.
Waypoint reached.
Alright. I just put it on militia office for now. But this map alone is impressive. You can do a ton of things with this map. Because now I told you I was in a place called Verge Vendor. Well, that's this place right here, as you can see with the white letters. It says Verge Vendor. And then even below that, it's a little red dot right here that I'm highlighting. It says you are here. Okay? That's like that's the area I'm currently in. And you can see to the left of me, to the left of that dot, is a place called Loose. That's where I was. So I had traveled from there to there, just about an inch and a half apart, just briefly. Well, as we start zooming out, you can see the relation to everything else in this universe. It's gigantic. And all these little bright red dots aren't even a third of this universe. I turned everything blue. Maybe I shouldn't have. There's more of the red dots to see the... So the world is just massive. And this is nice in part because all of these different systems, sometimes they'll have restricted pathways. You can only go certain ways to get to a certain station, and because all these different quadrants and constellations and regions will have different levels of security, it's going to change things a lot. Really low security areas are real dangerous. Might have harder NPCs, and some people PvPing might be waiting, you know, right at the warp points and stuff, just to like blow you out of the water as soon as you warp in. And so it can be really dangerous. One of the cool things about that is with the market, it makes a very realistic economy for this entire game. Everybody's in the same realm or shard or server, and you have all these separate systems, and you can access an auction house from any station anywhere in this universe, but you can't just buy and instantly pick up what you're buying. You can, if you find something in a different region and that's the only thing in that region and you want it, that means if you really want it bad enough, you have to go there to get it. So let me zoom back in here a little bit. So I'm in Verge Vendor, like I said. Let's say I just wanted to go like over to this place called renin or mice or meese. I have to look. I have to pay attention. Like, what routes can I take, and then what's the security level during that entire route? And can I even go there? If I end up having to go through a really low security section, like 0.2 or 0.1 or something. Fastcard's telling me you can access the market in states too. Alright, that's really cool. I actually didn't know that. But after you access the market and find something, you're going to have to know whether you want to go there or not. And what that's going to do is going to greatly add to how the market fluctuates. A laser, a certain level of a laser over here in the middle of that's surrounded by all low security areas might be way cheaper, because it's like, wow, people have to really go a long distance for this, and it's really dangerous on their part. So I want to, so the prices might be cheaper in that area, like maybe a lot cheaper for everything. But it's because it's more dangerous to get there. And then way over here, like 20, 30, 50 jumps away, however many you want to say, it might be like, it's pretty safe zone. So everybody's gouging. They're like, whoa, hey, you want that cheap laser? Go get it. But chances are, I know you're not going to go get it. You'll pay my high price. A real-world economist to help them take care of the game. Somebody's telling me I have bad star color. How's that? Change the color. It's just like this wacky blobby green now. So yeah, so people have been creating their own businesses from the game. Like there are players that will pay other players a certain fee for if they'll ship some goods for them. They'll create a service, a shipping service basically. They'll say, hey, I'll ship. I've got this super duper Uber ship, and I'll take your stuff through the bad zone, the low 0.0 or low sec, whatever. For the right price. Alright, let's get out of the map. This game is huge. I mean, it's obviously, you could do tons of live streams on this. Brendan's been writing for Massively, I think, over 3 years, and I don't think he ever runs out of things to talk about the game. I need to find where I was at now. Where's my home? Here we go. So the world is huge, the economy is huge, and it's fluctuating, and so if you like crafting and playing the economy, it's incredibly fun. Like, I mean, it's just incredibly fun because it's like so varied. There's so here, but there's planetary interactions. You can actually like set down processing plants on the surface of planets and stuff now. For those just coming in, it's getting a little called EVE Online, and I'm taking a look at it from a newbie perspective, trying to run down some of the massive lists of things you can do in this game. I already covered earlier talking about how the game is so much more than playing a spreadsheet. I know I see so many comments about that, and it's just, there's so much more, really. It doesn't do the game justice because there's so many things to keep in mind and manage and keep track of. That's where the action starts coming from. That's what starts getting your blood pumping and you know, getting you excited, even though maybe somebody else on the screen isn't really seeing like ninja stars flying around and blood splattering everywhere and stuff, right? But the action is playing the game a lot. But on that note, it can be really fun watching somebody else play the game. I've saw some videos. For instance, I think his name's DeLone Wolf on YouTube. I don't know how famous or popular he is. I would think he would be super popular because I love watching his videos. He posts up regularly these videos on YouTube and very good with high resolution graphics. And the way he talks about the game is a really good way of like showing other people how off, and he's using some of the really nice player tools that let you mess with the graphics and camera angles. You're he's doing all this stuff, and it's almost like you're listening to somebody who might you know, be too much of a geek. CCP took that moniker and ran with it. They basically have a website, and it says right on the front, it says Eve is real, and it's fitting. It's really fitting because that's how it acts. Like the lore and the way the lore is, it works perfectly with real life because you're a clone, right? And you have to manage this stuff. And this window, this game, quote game unquote, is your interactions with the world, and so it fits perfectly well. And so watching DeLone Wolf do these videos, it's very much like watching somebody talk about a real world, and that's because it just, I think CCP did an excellent job with this game. Fastcar's asking if I'm going to show character customization. I guess it is kind of a big thing now. I'm forgetting how to access character customization without leaving the game. So I'm just going to keep blabbing endlessly here. If you can remind me how to access back to the character creator. I have my graphics. Well, no, I don't have the graphics turned down. Oh, okay. That is something maybe worth talking about. These little space stations that you can dock in, they aren't totally useless. There's actually little tools laying around. Like if you look on the desk, I can hover over my ship. It brings up some tools I can function, I can interact with. I can open my ship fittings, which we need to get to soon here. But I'll jump into character customization. I guess this is a re-customization. Yeah, they added a pretty awesome character customizer. Here's my guy. Before the space station thing, they update. Basically, your guy was just an avatar, but he was always kind of, you know, you could always customize him fairly decently. And now it's even more so. Like I can change. You can't even see those subtle differences. But up here in the top right, you can choose hairstyles. You can see I'm switching from some different hairstyles here. And then, how about color? How about color? It's not changing. Oh, that's a root color, sorry. See, you can even change your roots. See, there, I'm changing my hair color a bit. Let's go into skin detail, eye detail, lash thickness, cheek color, lip tone, clothing, outer, mid layer, top, bottom, feet, glasses. You can do randomize, you can do, let's try some randomize here. Where was randomize all? There we are. Randomize all is up in the top left. So there's one look. See, there's another. You can get really crazy with the customization in this game. Look, I can have no eyeballs. So essentially that's the now what I want to do is I want to cancel this. All your choices will be lost, yes. Because I like my guy the way he looks. So we looked at skills earlier. I'm going to post, for anybody new coming into the game, I'm going to post up our link again. Because we're getting towards the end of our live stream, but we've got a few minutes here. I want to look at ship fittings. We looked at skills earlier. But you can buy tons of different ships and just like, I don't know, maybe what, thousands of different kinds of fittings, they're called. They're just modules that you can plug into your ship. Different ships can hold different amounts of modules. And this is where you like manage a lot of stuff, like, and it's another thing that makes me think of the old BattleTech RPG. Here's fittings button. We open up, loads up, and this is my Littlefoot 1. The Littlefoot 1. I imagine I'm going to be I imagine I'm going to be up to like the Littlefoot 23 before before too long, because I'll probably end up getting slaughtered left and right and going through ships like I go through socks or something. But here's this ship in particular. I forgot what kind of a ship this is. This is my, oh shoot, let me make sure. There's tons of different ships and fittings and stuff. Show info. This is the Catalyst, yeah, sorry. Frozen Corpse wins. It was the Catalyst. He guessed it. So every ship's going to have different things it's capable of doing, and taken into consideration like the hundreds or thousands of skills you have, plus the hundreds and thousands or thousands of fittings for your ship you can have. Tons of stuff to play with here. Like I just have some ammo in here and my mining modules. I have this stasis webifier. There's tools that do everything. I mean, like well, see, one of my skills just finished. But when I was talking earlier about how you have to pay attention to like your heading, the way your ship's heading, and speed in relation to your enemy, that can matter, and it really matters in battle. I think it's accurate to say that it takes a lot of player skill to play the game. Even if you even if you max out all your skills, that doesn't mean you're going to have an automatic advantage over other players. That's another complaint about people who don't like the game have. My retort, or my polite defense, would be that that really is not a true statement. Players who have played the game longer than other players do not necessarily have an advantage over new players. First of all, there's only 5 levels that any skill can reach. So, and that only takes like a couple weeks at most, I think. So within a couple weeks, you can have a skill leveled as high as anybody else in the game who's played the game for over 5 years has. And secondly, there's so many of these little phases that I was talking about earlier: ship heading, trajectory, speed. Then you have all these fittings. You have things, and they can alter how you fight. Like stasis, web of fire can trap another player when you get near them. It can slow them down. There's items that can speed you up, items that can hide you better from radar, just on and on and on. And a person who learns this stuff and applies it skillfully in battle they can become very skilled players. And it's barely dependent on how long you've played the game. I mean, I guess it depended on how long you played the game, more so for the fact that people who played the game longer have learned more about the game, not because they've leveled up more or they've gotten more money or something. Not necessarily because of that. I mean, yes, that does matter a little bit. It does matter a little bit that, you know, you saved up enough money to buy the next better cruiser that can hold 3 more lasers instead of only 1 laser, right? So that matters a little bit, but that's my rant. So that's my rant against people who are kind of afraid to start playing the game because they think they can never catch up. That's simply not true. That's a myth. You can catch up very quickly, and you can start PvPing and battling almost from like the first week or 2 if you wanted to. But anyways, besides that rant, we've reached the end of the live stream. And let's see, I think I pretty much got in everything I wanted to get in. I definitely didn't talk about everything I could possibly talk about. There's so much to the game. But we talked about the user interface a little bit, how you learn skills are time-based. I worked around a little bit to show you some. I'm sorry I didn't show you any battles and fighting, but I just don't know very many people in game, and I would have had to try to find somebody to run with, and it would have taken too long to jump to different systems and find someone to shoot at. But I did go and mine an asteroid, and I guess that was the action. And I talked a little bit about how I felt the game's a lot more than just playing a spreadsheet, and it's very skill dependent on the player side, I think. Because because the movement and everything reminds me of BattleTech, how you have movement phases. The size of the world, I talked about how huge it is, the economy, and that creates this vast, diverse economy that's really awesome. That really lets players spread their wings, and you can play economist, and there's so much you can do. Even if a person never got into a single fight in their entire career in the game, you'd never get bored. You could have all this other stuff to do. The way CCP built the game and the rules that they allow for, they allow for players to be ruthless and try to take advantage of the tools that the game provides them. So there's actually real news that comes out of this game, like real news about players scamming other players, real news about players losing lots of real-world money. There was a story, if you look on that Massively link I put up, and go through some of the older stuff, you'll see that there's an older, not too old, an older story about a guy who bought this stuff called Plex, and that's another thing I should have gotten into. I didn't even get into. But he started transporting a ton of Plex, which cost a lot of real-world money. And somebody came upon him and blew his ship up, and he lost like $15,000 US, like in the blink of an eye, something like that. The news story has the details. This is a really, really fantastic game. It really has. After I started playing it and realizing the truth of how it works, there's I really, really doesn't. It's really not accurate when I see commenters saying the game is boring. It's like playing a spreadsheet, and all you have to do is get a better fitting, and you'll automatically win against another player that doesn't have a better fitting. That's really not true at all. There's so many other variables, but I could keep on ranting. Unfortunately, I can't. We're at the bottom of the hour. To wrap up, I was your host, Jeremy, for Massively TV on massively.com or massively.joystick.com. You can look at more of my live streams on Ruby's MV Guide, and that's also where you can get a listing of what's coming up in the following weeks. I'll put a link to that into the chat room. But the MV Guide comes out every Monday morning, and it tells you who's playing what when. So there's the link I just threw up. And I feel like I hardly need to really do this, but if anyone is watching and has never played the game and has never heard of the game at all, then I will post up a link to the game so you could go download it. They have trials you can try out. And if you're interested, I'll be live streaming more. Tomorrow is Friday. I will be live streaming Runes of Magic, which is totally different than EVE Online. If you want to email me, you can you can get a hold of me at jeremy@massively.com. You can tweet me on Twitter at Jeremy_Stratton. That's JEREMY_STRATTON. And of course you have to have a little @ symbol before my name. But if you're on Twitter, you know that. Okay, that's it for today's show. I hope thanks for everybody who came along. And thanks for Fastcart and Frozen Corpse. They've been super helpful in the chat room. They really helped me out this new bout with getting some details about the features of the game right. So props to them. They tie for MVP of the show. And with that, I'm gonna sign off, and I'll be back tomorrow with Runes of Magic. So if you're there, I'll see you tomorrow.